Hi, welcome to Digging to China. I'm Dongsheng. Today, let me share a major economic news story making waves in China. According to a report from Sina Finance, the headline reads, Dongling Group, a steel giant in Shaanxi with assets in hundreds of billions, declares bankruptcy, facing 1.27 billion yuan in enforced debt. The report details, with more than 100 subsidiary companies, total assets of 40 billion yuan and over 18,000 employees. It's astonishing that Dongling Group, which ranked 205th on the 2023 China Top 500 enterprises list with 125.7 billion yuan in revenue, is now heading toward bankruptcy. Industry experts attribute Dongling Group's bankruptcy to overexpansion, market changes, and mismanagement. The company's involvement in bankruptcy proceedings, numerous legal disputes, the total amount of enforced debts, and the restrictions on its legal representative all point to significant debt repayment challenges, indicating that the company may be unable to meet its obligations or is insolvent. This bankruptcy is likely to have repercussions not only on the local economy but also on the broader Chinese economy, particularly by disrupting supply chains, related industries, and financial markets. Financial institutions and investors tied to Dongling Group are also expected to feel the impact. Founded in 1980, Dongling Group began as a village-run collective enterprise, focusing on steel and non-ferrous metal smelting, along with the mineral and energy sectors. Dongling Village, where the company is based, is often called the #1 village in the West, with villages averaging over 100,000 yuan in annual income and household assets exceeding 5 million yuan. Real estate was another key area of Dongling Group's business. According to reports, many believe that the company's downfall was largely due to its deep entanglement with the real estate industry. Before its bankruptcy and restructuring, Dongling Group was entangled in extensive legal disputes. By August 2nd, the company faced 125 judicial cases, including contract and loan disputes, with enforced debts amounting to 1.27 billion yuan. Li Heiji, the group's leader and formerly Shaanxi's wealthiest individual, has also attracted considerable media attention. Dongling Group was renowned for its ability to rescue falling business from 2000 to 2009. The company participated in the restructuring of more than 10 state-owned enterprises on the verge of bankruptcy. As recently as 2017, Dongling Group was an investor in the bankruptcy restructuring plan for Wuxi Yaohui Real Estate Development Corporation. In 2018, the group invested 1.3 billion yuan as part of a restructuring effort to revitalize the Yinghui Center project, which had been stalled for 8 years. Here are my takeaways. Firstly, the biggest impact of this news is the confirmation that what was inevitable has now come to pass. When Xi Jinping first took office, he was still committed to making meaningful changes and hadn't yet fully adopted his more controversial approaches. His initial major move was to introduce supply-side reforms, a policy that had a clear internal rationale. Upon taking office, Xi Jinping quickly organized the APEC summit. At that time, Beijing was plagued by severe smog. Xi ordered a shutdown of all factories and business in Beijing and nearby areas, resulting in a high-profile APEC meeting. The city saw a rare appearance of clear blue skies during the summit, which the Chinese media dubbed APEC Blue Sky. The success of the APEC summit boosted Xi Jinping's confidence, although critics point out that APEC Blue Skies were achieved by halting production, which left many people unemployed. Xi seemed to recognize an important lesson. Smog could be controlled and managed. Determined to tackle the problem, he identified that the major sources of Beijing's smog were the steel plants surrounding the city. Building on this insight, Xi Jinping proposed a supply-side reform in 2015. The first major initiative of supply-side reform was to restrict and reduce steel production. Xi Jinping set national targets for cutting steel outputs and imposed stringent regulations in Hebei province, where any increase in production by even 1 single ton would lead to dismissal. This effort was to reduce steel production became a central focus of supply-side reform, and it was vigorously pursued for 3 years. This shows that when Xi Jinping first came into power, he was actively engaged in significant reforms. Unlike his current more passive approach and focus on political strategy, he was initially committed to enforcing steel production cuts. Xi Jinping's analysis was that China's annual construction needs required no more than 300 million tons of steel. Yet by 2015, production capacity had exceeded 700 million tons, resulting in a significant oversupply. Steel production also severely damaged the environment, causing substantial pollution. To address the surplus, China exported the excess steel globally, leading to the unfortunate situation where the country sold steel at low prices abroad, sacrificing environmental quality for financial gain. Although this approach brought in revenue, it did so at a considerable environmental cost. Did it really generate profits? Not quite. The steel industry was so entrenched in involution that most companies were losing money. By 2015, the entire Chinese steel industry was operating at a loss. President Xi Jinping couldn't stand a situation where others profit at China's expense. That's why he decided to target the steel industry for reform. If supply-side reforms had been more thoroughly enforced at the time, Dongling Group's issues could have been resolved a decade ago. However, the 3-year supply-side reform ended in complete failure. Instead of reducing, China's steel production actually increased. Dongling Group's bankruptcy is simply a delayed outcome of this failure. This situation illustrates that Xi Jinping's unfinished initiatives eventually catch up with him. When you fail to cut steel production as needed, the market will punish you. If you don't voluntarily reduce capacity, the market will enforce it through bankruptcies. In my opinion, Dongling Group's bankruptcy is the inevitable consequence of Xi Jinping's unfinished supply-side reforms, and this is just the start. More steel companies are likely to follow suit. No matter how powerful or authoritarian the Chinese Communist Party is, it remains insignificant against the forces of economic law. The economy doesn't bend to anyone's will. The companies Xi Jinping wants to protect won't be spared just because he wishes it so. In the past, when people called Xi Jinping the emperor of unfinished projects, it was often in jest, as if he were like a monkey juggling corn, dropping one as he picked up another. The criticism was more mockery than serious concern, and few realized the true dangers these unfinished projects posed. The bankruptcy of Dongling Group highlights the real and significant harm caused by Xi's incomplete initiatives. If he had made corrections back in 2015, 18,000 people wouldn't be suddenly out of work today. Ignoring small problems only leads to bigger ones, eventually creating an incurable situation. Leaving projects unfinished and avoiding responsibility won't work. There will ultimately be consequences, and they are unavoidable. Secondly, the Chinese steel industry is facing an inevitable wave of bankruptcies due to an underlying systemic pattern. Over the past 20 years, the steel industry's growth has been intricately linked to the real estate sector. Each square meter of construction requires 75 kilograms of steel, and with China's real estate development covering billions of square meters annually, the steel industry has been profoundly influenced. The relationship is so intertwined that it's more than just an impact. Steel and real estate are interdependent. Where there is real estate, steel follows, and vice versa. With the real estate crisis escalating, the steel industry is struggling to stay afloat. Dongling Group's bankruptcy exposes the broader impact of this crisis, which has started to ripple through the entire industry chain. The Chinese government has yet to fully address the real estate sector's challenges across the entire supply chain. Dongling Group's bankruptcy is an early indicator of the widespread economic effects of the real estate crisis. This is just the beginning. Dongling Group's collapse is not just a steel industry failure, but a sign of a larger economic crisis triggered by the real estate sector. More steel companies and other industries such as home appliances, renovation, and building materials will likely feel the impact. It's important to recognize the severity of the situation and not underestimate its potential consequences. Thirdly, this year, Western countries have heavily criticized China for overcapacity issues. The Chinese government's initial reaction was to deny the problem and strongly counter the criticism. Dongling Group's bankruptcy, however, provides further proof to both Chinese and international audience that Western criticisms are valid and the Chinese defenses are misplaced. Overcapacity is indeed a significant issue in China. Dongling Group's products include not only standard steel and construction materials, but also specialized steels used in non-ferrous metal processing. If even such specialized sectors are struggling, it is evident that steel companies focused on basic construction materials are facing even greater challenges. President Xi Jinping and the Chinese Foreign Ministry might deny overcapacity, but it cannot be ignored by China's courts. When creditors demand the repayment and the shareholders face financial losses, they are forced to cut their losses. Political rhetoric cannot mask economic reality. For example, when Xi Jinping acknowledged the economic downturn this year, the suggested remedy was to promote a narrative of economic optimism. Simply claiming that the economy is thriving won't change the underlying facts. Whether you deny overcapacity or promote an optimistic economic outlook, both approaches are short-sighted and ineffective. Ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away. By failing to acknowledge and address the issue, it only gets worse, leading to increasingly severe consequences. Consider if Dongling Group had begun gradual supply-side reform in 2015, it might have averted the sudden losses of 18,000 jobs today. Such abrupt disruption is a severe shock. With a phased approach to reform back in 2015, these workers could have transitioned more smoothly to new positions or industries. Xi Jinping's hometown is Shaanxi, and the Dongling Group is model enterprise in that region. This situation exemplifies how Xi Jinping's economic management can escalate small issues into major crises. The fallout from unfinished projects isn't merely stagnation, but can lead to far-reaching disasters. Thank you for watching. Please like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.